Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Tuesday regular meeting of the Pierce County Council. It is Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. The time is 3:02 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Kruger. Here. Councilmember Denson. Here. Councilmember Herrera.
Here.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Here.
Councilmember Morrell.
Here.
Councilmember Mello.
Here.
You have 7 members present.
We have all 7 members present and a quorum. That brings us to item 3. Please join us in listening to the land acknowledgement and pledge of allegiance to the flag, led by Councilmember Denson, followed by a moment of silence dedicated to Sandra Day O'Connor, former Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Councilmember Denson.
Thank you, Chair. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Coast Salish tribes. Coast Salish people have lived on and stewarded these lands since time immemorial and continue to do so today. We recognize that this land acknowledgement is one small step towards true allyship, and we commit to uplifting the voices, experiences, and histories of the indigenous people of this land. I'd like to invite all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are now at section 4, which is approval of our agenda. Are there any objections to approving today's agenda as presented? Seeing no objection, the agenda is approved. On today's council agenda, there will be multiple opportunities for public comment. There are no items for final action on today's consent agenda. During sections 8 and 9 of the agenda, we will take public comment on each ordinance and resolution individually. And finally, under community forum, there will be an opportunity to address the council on any topic that is not on today's agenda. We ask you to address all comments to the chair and to be mindful of the decorum expected during this meeting. For more information on the rules for public participation, please review the bottom of page 1 of today's agenda. We are at section 5, the consent agenda. Does any member wish to pull any item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Vice Chair Campbell for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Kruger. Aye. Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The results of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the consent agenda is adopted. We are at section 6, messages from the executive, judges, or prosecuting attorney. We have a number of messages from the executive transmitting the following ordinances, which were approved and signed on November 28th, 2023. If you're at home, this might be a good time to go to the bathroom or get some water.
Have dinner.
We'll read these briefly into the record as they were returned signed. Ordinance number 2023-43, it was an ordinance amending the salary classification plan for a number of countywide elected officials, well, all countywide elected officials. Ordinance number 2023-46, an ordinance setting the 2024 ad valorem tax levies for Pierce County for collection in 2024. The executive signed ordinance number 2023-47, an ordinance setting the 2024 ad valorem tax levies for conservation futures for collection in 2024. Ordinance number 2023-48, an ordinance setting the 2024 ad valorem tax levies for county roads for collection in 2024. He signed ordinance number 2023-49, an ordinance amending jail incarceration rates at the Pierce County Jail. He signed ordinance number 2023-53, an ordinance establishing the 2024 and 2025 rates and charges for the sanitary sewer program here in Pierce County. He signed ordinance number 2023-54, an ordinance adopting the 2024 to 2044 sewer improvement program. The executive signed ordinance number 2023-55, an ordinance that established the Pierce County Airport's lease rates and rental fees. He signed ordinance number 2023-57, an ordinance approving equipment rental and revolving fund rental rates for the next 2 years. The executive signed ordinance number 2023-58S, which was an ordinance relating to ferry fares. He signed ordinance number 2023-59S, an ordinance amending the code, establishing the planning and public works and assessor treasurer development review, inspection, application processing fees, administrative provisions for the construction codes, and the International Fire Code to phase in implementation and update of certain fees. He signed ordinance number 2023-60S, an ordinance adopting the 2024 to 2029 surface water improvement program. The executive signed ordinance number 2023-61, an ordinance approving the acceptance of an additional $450,000 loan from the Washington State Department of Transportation Community Aviation Revitalization Board for replacement of Pierce County Airport hangar doors at Thun Field. And finally, the executive signed ordinance number 2023-64S, which was an ordinance amending the Pierce County Code related to school impact fee schedule to adjust school impact fees for 2024 based on the Consumer Price Index, and also creating a working group to review the school impact fee methodology. Thank you for bearing with us as we read all of those into the record. Councilmember Herrera, would you like us to move to ordinances, or would you like us to take up the proclamation that's next on the agenda?
10 minutes away, so yeah, the ordinances would be great.
You would like to do the ordinance? Is there any objection so that we can accommodate another guest that we are expecting to help celebrate and receive this proclamation? Is there any objection to moving to ordinances at this time? I don't see any objection. We're going to come back to proclamations in just a moment. So we are at ordinances. We now have proposal number 2023-69S before us. Councilmember Kruever for a motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move 2023-69S.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. We adopt proposal 2023-69S. Madam Clerk, will you please read the title into the record?
Proposal number 2023-69S, an ordinance of the Pierce County Council establishing a small business strengthening and security grant program with a focus on supporting businesses in unincorporated communities and small cities and towns, establishing reporting requirements, and setting an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Swanson, good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair Mello, members of the council. Before you today for a public hearing and final approval is ordinance 2023-69S. The ordinance would create the Pierce County Small Business Strengthening and Security Grant Program. This program would have a cap per grant recipient of receiving $10,000 in reimbursable expenses. The ordinance would also create the program framework, would establish periodic reporting criteria for the department coming back to the council with reporting, and it would set an effective date of January 1st, 2024. Contained within the executive's proposed 2024-2025 biennial budget, which was an allocation for a program for the Small Business Safety and Security Grant Program. Council, through the budget process, amended that program. created the Small Business Strengthening and Security Grant Program and allocated $1 million of ARPA funding for those grants to be distributed to applicants for the program through the ARPA timeframe that we have. Again, as I stated earlier, the maximum cap per applicant to receive would be $10,000. That's based on a 50% reimbursement of authorized expenditures under that program. So there's up to $20,000 of authorized expenditures that any business could receive reimbursement for. The eligible expenditures are meant to be one-time expenditures for physical changes to the business equipment and premises. Again, these would be focused on safety and security and program improvements, along with strengthening the business's long-term viability going forward. So one-time capital expenditures related in those areas. For a business to qualify, it needs to be operating from a physical commercial property within unincorporated Pierce County, or a small city or town with a population of less than 8,000. So that would include the cities and towns of Buckley, Carbonado, Eatonville, Fircrest, Milton, Pacific, Roy, Ruston, South Prairie, Steilacoom, and Wilkeson. And then the business needs to not exceed 20 full-time employees to be considered a small business, and needs to have been in operation for at least 2 years. Economic Development Department would be charged with administering the program. The department does not charge any administrative fees against those grants, so all $1 million that was allocated in the budget would be distributed to grants. The number of applicants would be obviously limited by that dollar amount based on the number of applications coming forward. Not all businesses would be expected to utilize the entirety of that grant amount. The average, just based on past performance of other similar grant programs, has been 2/3 has been an estimated utilization amount. So that gives kind of some framework for the scope of what this grant program could entail. And again, as stated earlier, the ordinance does create periodic reporting back to council. The anticipation would be to align that with the current ARPA reporting that comes back from the department, which goes to the Economic and Infrastructure Development Committee, and we would just incorporate that in the report they currently do. Again, the executive and the department staff do recommend approval. Also, the Agricultural and Advisory Commission did send a recommendation of approval related to this ordinance to council. There was a public hearing conducted at Economic and Infrastructure Development on October 31st, where the ordinance was continued. A second public hearing was conducted in EIDC on November 14th, where the ordinance was forwarded without recommendation. And then the initial final date was delayed because there was an amendment. The title and the scope of the program was amended at EIDC on November 14th. And we wanted to give 2 weeks notification to the public of the title change, which is what's set final for the 5th today. Again, there is an equity note in your packet. The ordinance itself does have a no or de minimis fiscal impact statement to it. However, as was stated earlier, the $1 million was put in the budget for this program, but that's not technically part of this ordinance, so you get the no or de minimis fiscal impact. With that, we do have both the department staff available on the Zoom call, and council staff is available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Director Capistani, Director of our Economic Development Department, thank you for making yourself available to answer any questions. Do you have anything to add before I turn it to council?
No, Chair Mello, I do not.
Thank you for making yourself available, and your team. Do any council members have any questions or comments before we open this up for a public hearing? I don't see any. So let's open this up for a public hearing on the Small Business Strengthening and Security Grant Program. Are there any members of the public here in chambers wishing to provide comment on this ordinance creating this grant program? Anyone in chambers? Not seeing anyone come to the podium. Mr. Weinsberry, anybody in our Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number proposal number 2023-69S, press the raise hand icon of Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. At this time, we have one hand chair. Stand by. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Lynette Borcherding, and I'm opposed to this ordinance. It's backwards. You're asking businesses to beef up their security, maybe put some bars on some windows, a better security system, instead of getting to the root of the problem, which is arresting the criminals. It looks like you're chasing ARPA money once again. So in your own ordinance, it goes over the crime statistics. 2022, more than 800 non-residential burglaries, 130 commercial robberies, 600 fraud and forgery incidents. Armed robbery is up 71% and motor vehicle theft is up 96%. But you're going to
Lynn, are you still there? We seem to have lost you. Lynn, can you hear us? Well, Lynn, if you come back, please say something or raise your hand. We have a couple of more hands up, and we'll let you finish your time. You have a little bit more than a minute and a half, and we're eager to hear from everyone. Let's go to the next person.
All right, next we have William. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening, City Council. My name is William Cooper. Am I good to go?
Yes, you are.
All right, great. Kind of piggybacking off of what Lynn was talking about, I do have some statistics here that I'd like to share with the council for your consideration. I'm going to go ahead and give them and then give the context of them at the end. So this group makes up 6.5% of the U.S. population. 94% of them cannot read proficiently at the age of 18. 63% don't work full-time. 72%, they maintain a 72% illegitimacy rate. 33% are convicted felons. 50% of the male prison population. And this group commits 60% of the murders in our country. I will say, too, that from the FBI.gov National Incident-Based Reporting System, you can find statistics that say that this group that I'm talking about, which are the black males of this country, commit murder at a rate of 1 out of every 22. It comes out to be something like 4,000 per 100,000. These statistics are very alarming to me, considering oftentimes on the news and the media paints the picture that white supremacy is the greatest threat to our country. And I just don't understand why we can't have an open dialogue in our country about who really are the most violent demographic of our country. And what troubles me even more is that our southern border is wide open and open to all sorts of African immigrants that are just going to further exacerbate this issue. So for the safety of our nation, our people, the people that this country was founded for, the Naturalization Act of 1790 says that America was created for European men of high moral character. So to preserve that, I think that the city should go ahead and... What's your problem, nigger lover? I can't come on here and talk about statistics without you trying to interrupt me because I'm kind of...
Can you mute... Vice Chair Campbell, please state your point.
This is about a small business assistance program, and I would just ask that they be on topic with how we can assist our small businesses.
Thank you, Vice Chair Campbell. Your points well taken. Our rules of decorum and rules of engagement with the council require individuals who are providing public comment to speak to the topic at hand. and so it needs to be germane to the topic at hand. Is that caller still on?
No.
Did he unfortunately leave us?
The person was just speaking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I removed them.
Okay.
From the.
Well,
from topic.
further commenters do need to stick to the topic at hand. We'll continue, but if members of the public aren't willing to follow our rules of decorum and rules of engagement, we will close the public hearing. Please proceed.
Yes, sir. Next, we have caller Amir. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Amir Rosenbaum. Good to go, or do I got to wait a minute?
Go ahead.
Perfect. And since we're talking about small businesses, I would like to talk about a small business that was opened up in 1913, and it's grown since to be a national business all over this country, and it's active right here in our very own city. And it's known as the Anti-Defamation League, which was established in 1913 to protect a Jewish child murdering pedophile named Leo Frank. Now, this is the organization in charge of determining hate speech and censoring Americans in real life and online. They're the ones directing police stations and city councils
Can you mute the
what to
individual,
say and what
please?
is free speech. Nigger, 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 nigger,
Sir.
nigger, nigger, nigger.
Councilor Herrera, please state your point.
Definitely had nothing to do with what we're talking about here and the ordinance, and has no variance to this council or what we're talking about.
Thank you, Councilor Herrera. Your point is well taken. We were going to do this one final time, and if one more member of the public doesn't follow our rules of decorum and rules of engagement by staying on topic to the topic at hand, we will close the public forum. Am I allowed to do that, Ms. Long?
So if a speaker violates the rules of the council with regard to the conduct of their meetings, that speaker is liable to lose his or her privilege to speak. But the others are entitled to, as long as they adhere to the rules, as you've
We
stated.
will keep going then. Thank you for making sure we provided an appropriate public forum. We ask the members of the public to please adhere. We're trying to be as respectful as possible. We ask members of the public to be respectful of our rules of engagement for this public forum and stay focused and on topic for the issue at hand, which is a small business program to help strengthen small businesses here in Pierce County. Councilmember Krueger, before we proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered if the FCC rules to
This is.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I don't know if they could hear the answer.
The answer was no. It's a. Do you want to? Ms. Long,
Right,
you
so
want to
this is cable cast, so it's different. It wouldn't be subject to those. Yeah.
Mr. Waynesbury, let's try this again.
Yes, sir. All right, next we have caller Tabitha. Please state your name for the record.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, my name's Tabitha Manjurin. I go by Tabby for short. I'm actually an LGBTQ activist. I am a male to female transgender. And since we're speaking on the topic of small businesses, I just wanted to say that the war in Israel is really hurting small businesses. And these people that are calling in saying the N-word is really disrespectful. And it really hurts my feelings because you shouldn't say nigger. Nigger is a bad word, and you shouldn't say it. And you shouldn't be able to come in here and just say.
Can you mute the individual?
Got it.
Commissioner Campbell.
Chair, I would please remind the speakers to remain on topic and speak to the subject at hand.
Your point's well taken, and it looks like that individual chose to self-select out of our public forum. We have one more hand up.
Yes, sir. All right, we have next caller Carolyn. Please state your name for the record.
Carolyn Robertson Harding.
Please proceed, if you're willing to adhere to our guidelines.
Of course, Chair. Good afternoon. Carolyn Robertson Harding again for the record, here on behalf of the Buckley Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board there, and I would like to
let the council and the chair know that we support ordinance number 2023-69 as amended. We appreciate the efforts of Councilmember Morrell and others for previous opportunities for grants for our small businesses, and thank you for your efforts.
Thank you for being with us.
And at this time, we have another hand shared.
We're out of hands?
We're out of hands.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. I do apologize for the members of the public who have to hear that this being a public forum and a public meeting, folks are able to say whatever they want to say. They do need to follow the decorum of the meeting and the rules we set for a meeting, which in this case means staying focused and on topic to the issue at hand, but we can't filter someone's speech for them. So that is why, unfortunately, we hear some of those things. So let me turn it. We've closed the public hearing. Let me open it up to the council for final questions or comments. Councilmember Denson.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to you and my colleagues for stepping up when comments weren't appropriate, and I too apologize to the public. Shouldn't have to listen to some of that, especially on such a happy occasion. This is a great program. I feel like we've talked about it a number of times through the EIDC committees as well as through the budgeting process. We've had lots of different conversations about this strengthening and security grant program. It's a great opportunity for small businesses to really have some additional support as they are coming out of COVID, out of the pandemic, and out of the different economic situations as well, to invest in capital expenses that can improve their businesses. For the public, as was briefed by Mr. Swanson, it started off really being focused on security and safety measures, but this council decided to broaden it. So those types of expenditures are perfectly acceptable. But also if a company wanted to buy some tables and chairs or expand their restaurant or buy a stove or a new mast, perhaps, for a boat touring company, they too can be able to make these investments in ways that build their company, which strengthens our communities through greater employment and greater economic viability. I want to thank council. We went through a lot of iterations on this. At one point, I'll just explain to my district that I did have an amendment that I prepared to expand it to slightly larger cities, which would have encompassed, I think, 4 or 5 other cities. But because we only have $1 million in the budget for this program, we did decide to keep it to small communities of 8,000 and below. But if other funds become available throughout this biennium or in the future, that's something that I will definitely be looking at doing, because all of our communities and all of our small businesses need assistance at this point. So again, thank you, and I'm really excited to see what businesses do with these funds and to partner with them towards the success of our communities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll also say that we won't let distractors like that distract what we got, the good work we have to do here. And this bill is one of those. The big ship of government or Pierce County is sailing along, and sometimes small businesses are kind of forgotten or kind of left out a little bit, or just not on the priority list. And I think this is a great gesture for small businesses who suffered quite a bit during the pandemic, and some of them didn't survive, and the ones that did are struggling with some increased security issues and things like that. And this is us saying, hey, we're going to help you out right here to help yourself, to have a more secure business, and anything else you may need to be successful here in Pierce County. We've heard the stats of people who live in Pierce County work in other counties more so than they do in their own, and we want to do everything we can to keep jobs here and everything else. And I am in favor of this, and I will be voting yes on this. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Herrera. Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Chair, and I too want to express support for this. It isn't very often we get to help our businesses in this manner. There have been victims of crime. We've just seen how our morality compass is spinning around, and it is appreciative that we can help them secure their businesses since we're not able to keep up with the crime. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the work of my colleagues on this particular ordinance. I think the previous programs have been very successful, as it was indicated coming out of during the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic. A lot of our small businesses have really suffered. And this allows a 50% eligible grant program up to $20,000 that they could use for equipment, for upgrading their facilities, and also for security improvements. I know from my own bicycle shop has been broken in 5 times in the last 2 years, to the point where they've had to stand up a GoFundMe account to pay for the damage that's been done to their facility. And it does impact the viability of businesses, and we all know that big business starts out as small business, and the more businesses that we can engage with in Pierce County will have a long-term benefit for everyone in Pierce County. So again, I will support this, and I thank all my colleagues for their work on this particular ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work on this. Vice Chair Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to join with with my fellow colleagues that did condemn the language that came in surrounding this. It was not appropriate, and there is no space for that in our public forums. Back at hand, helping small businesses as a longtime entrepreneur, with a couple of retail shops, I understand how difficult it can be. Some days I'm thankful that I'm no longer in the retail business, knowing that one of my businesses would have probably been highly targeted at this point. But so I can really understand the needs of many of our small businesses, really just to be able to make sure that they can look to local government as someone who can come in and help. Often it's been said within the small business community, when it comes to government, it's not what have you done for me lately, it's what have you done to me now. But this is definitely a case where we're stepping up and helping many of our small businesses. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I really want to thank members who've worked hard to think through how to deliver this program, and the hard work of the Economic Development Department, who's doing the work to actually outreach to small business owners, help them navigate many situations, including how to get some financial resources to strengthen themselves. So appreciate the hard work of the department and many. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on Proposal 2023-69S?
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The result of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the ordinance is adopted. We're going to come back to proclamations, if that's okay with the council. So today, the council is proudly proclaiming December 16th, 2023 as Wreaths Across America Day in Pierce County, Washington. I would like to invite Mark Perez, location coordinator with the Washington Soldiers Home Cemetery, and Frank Colony, vice commander of the American Legion Post 236, also a volunteer with Wreaths Across America. We invite you to come to the podium as Councilmember Herrera reads the proclamation into the record. Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. A proclamation of the Pierce County Council proclaiming Saturday, December 16, 2023 as Wreaths Across America in Pierce County. Whereas Wreaths Across America grew out of the Arlington National Cemetery Wreath Project, which began in 1992 with the placement of 5,000 wreaths donated by the Worcester Wreath Company on the headstones of our nation's fallen heroes in Arlington National Cemetery, and expanded into a national organization with over 2 million volunteers participating at over 3,400 locations. And whereas the Wreaths Across America mission is to remember, honor, and teach by remembering the fallen, honoring those who serve, and teaching our children the value of freedom. And whereas each wreath is comprised of 10 balsam bouquets signifying qualities that our veterans embody, which is faith, love, strength, honesty, humility, ambitions, optimism, concern, and pride. And whereas in 2018, the Wreaths Across America mission expanded overseas for the first time when 9,387 wreaths were placed at the headstones at the Normandy American Cemetery in France. And whereas on Saturday, December 16th, local volunteers will celebrate the placing of 2,265 wreaths at the Washington Soldiers Home Cemetery in Ording, Washington, 1,100 wreaths at Camp Lewis Post Cemetery on the U.S. Joint Base Lewis-McChord, and 100 wreaths at the Artendale Cemetery in Gig Harbor, 80 wreaths at Commerell Cemetery in Gig Harbor, 84 wreaths at the Anderson Island Cemetery on Anderson Island. And whereas the 2023 theme for Wreaths Across America is Serve and Succeed, acknowledging the veterans and military families who have found success through their own service, as well as highlighting local volunteers, more than 2 million of whom volunteered during Wreaths Across America Day in 2022. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed on the 5th day of December 2023 by the Pierce County Council that December 16th, 2023 is Wreaths Across America Day in Pierce County, Washington, and all residents are encouraged to support local wreaths across America at all events to honor those who sacrifice so much to support local wreaths and to protect for veterans who have protected our freedoms and demonstrated to our veterans and other families that we appreciate and will not forget all that they have given.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Well, Mark and Frank, thank you for being with us. We would love to hear remarks from both of you.
Thank you, Pierce County Council and staff. It is a pleasure to be here before you again. I always love to come here because I feel that I am amongst friends. And I want to thank you for the last 10 years that I have had the privilege and opportunity to be the location coordinator at our state's oldest veteran cemetery, which is the Washington Soldiers Home Cemetery in Ording. It's been 10 years now, and you've been there with me every step of the way. You've been so kind in supporting us with traffic signage and security and support and any other areas of support that we needed. You were always there. And I want to tell you just a quick tidbit, just a quick anecdote as to why this is so important and the effect that it has on our country. You know, our Soldiers Home Cemetery is out of the way. It's easy to forget that it's there. But that cemetery has 847 of Lincoln's Union Army men in blue buried there, including 4 Medal of Honor recipients from the war, from the Civil War, which both of which, by the way, are the most of any cemetery in this state, including Tahoma. So that's a big deal. And we also have an amazing woman buried there from World War I, an American Red Cross nurse who saved almost 700 children in World War I. And so that in itself is huge. And so those are just a few of the examples of the amazing people that are buried there that were almost forgotten. Well, when Wreaths Across America came our way, it was just at the beginning of the time that I started lobbying the state for funds to renovate the cemetery. Well, Wreaths Across America was the booster rocket for that. And because of Wreaths Across America, it brought awareness to the state, to the legislature, and we got nearly $1 million worth of work done at that cemetery this past decade, thanks to Wreaths Across America. Why? Because when people remember, things happen. They may be gone, but they're not forgotten. And I want to thank you once again for helping us and helping our citizens facilitate the continual remembrance and honoring of those who have served before us, and helping us teach our future generations, because the dividends are enormous. And I want to thank our veterans that are here before us. There are many veterans here. I want to thank you for your service. And on this Saturday, 9 a.m., not this Saturday, Saturday, December 16th at 9 a.m., we're going to come together as a community at our various cemetery locations to do just that, to thank those who have served and have given us the greatest nation on God's green earth. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you for all your support. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Vice Commander.
My name is Frank Colony. I'm the Vice Commander of Post 236, which is American Legion in Gig Harbor. A few years ago, I joined the Legion there and discovered that they were in fact doing a Wreaths Across America ceremony at Artendale Cemetery. I didn't even know Artendale was there. It's a cemetery on Hunt Street. If anybody is familiar, has anybody been there before? It's a closed cemetery. There's no more room, so no new people can go in there except for people that own plots. But I was impressed by the ceremony, and so I adopted a little cemetery called Cromwell Cemetery, which is, does anybody know Cromwell Country over there near Artendale? Well, it's a little cemetery. We have now 80 veterans that have been buried there since way back in 1904, so the cemetery's been around a while. And I had the privilege of working with Wreaths Across America and the American Legion to put together a ceremony there. So this will be the third year. And each year it's getting better and more people, and it's really getting fun. So I would encourage, find this little cemetery. It's on Google Maps, and come out and visit us on the 9th, or excuse me, at 9 a.m. on the 16th, or go to Artendale. There's going to be ceremonies at both of them. We're going to have trumpeters and brass quintet and honor guard and color guard. Thanks to Tacoma Yacht Club, we have a color guard. So please come out. The Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts have gotten together. They put markers on every veteran's grave this year for an Eagle Scout project. So now we have medallions on every veteran's grave in the cemetery. I'm quite excited to do this. So thank you so much. This is a huge honor. I appreciate it. I appreciate it on behalf of all of the volunteers that have helped make our number. We got the number again for these two cemeteries, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. We will soon invite you up here to take a picture so we can commemorate the moment. But before I do that, let me open it up to other members for final remarks. We'll begin with Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. And I want to thank Mr. Perez and Mr. Colony for participating in this. Mark, your work has paid some serious dividends at the Ording Cemetery. It is not forgotten. And what you talked about, the unintended consequences or benefits of Wreaths Across America help that cemetery there. You know, their motto of remember, honor, teach goes a long way. It gives people during the Christmas time something to do. It brings people to a cemetery that they've been driving by for years to take a look at it, bring their kids, bring a scout group, start talking about history, the Civil War, all kinds of different things. And it also brings some benefit to veterans themselves, because during the holidays, I'll tell you, for a lot of veterans, it's a very tough time. And it gives you a mission, and Wreaths Across America kind of puts a positive note to something that a lot of veterans want to avoid, of some of those memories. But it replaces some of those rotten memories or whatever memories they may have from being in combat or laying friends to rest in a positive manner. And then you see the community backing that play, youth, family members, and just people in the community. You leave there with something good in your heart, and it takes you through the holidays, and you know that those wreaths are going to be there all through the holidays, and they're dressed, they look great, and the next year you're going to be telling yourself, I'm going to be there again for next year. I'm going to help support this. So there's all kinds of great unintended benefits from all this, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing down there, because it takes just one person to volunteer to get it going, because Wreaths Across America didn't exist 25 years ago. It comes with an idea, and it's paid dividends across the country. Now it's going into other cemeteries across the world, and that's what America's about. It's about remembering some of our heroes. America's always looking for heroes, and that's a real easy one to do, is our veterans are sacrificed so much for us all. So thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. It's great to highlight this this time of year.
Thank you for bringing this forward, Councilmember Herrera. Councilmember Denson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councilmember Herrera, for your comments. Big thanks to Mr. Perez and Vice Commander Colony for your volunteer effort, because it's a lot of work, especially when there's fundraising involved. I know, and so thank you so much, and I'm sure people are excited to support you because it's such an amazing cause. I've had the pleasure of being involved with Wreaths for America for 3 years now as well, I think. I think it's just been 3 years, and it's so touching. It's so meaningful to the families there, to the community. I love going early and walking around and reading the headstones, because it's amazing that we have people buried from the Civil War and from the First World War, and it brings back so many thoughts of gratitude for the men and women that have served in our armed forces and are right here from our community. And the names you recognize, they're all community names, and it's just really special. And like Councilmember Herrera said, it just feels like the right thing to do this time of year. Even when it's raining. I think last year it was so windy and so rainy, and Cromwell Cemetery is just beautiful. That's the one that I've been to a couple times. I've been to Artendale as well, but it's in a very rural area. It's kind of rolling hills. It was just rainy and windy, but everyone just was filled with that warmth of spirit being there. As Vice Commander Colony mentioned, at Cromwell there's going to be music and there's speakers, and I'm sure, Mr. Perez, you have the same sort of things going on in Orting. But my favorite part is at the end. I'm not sure if everyone does it this way, but at Cromwell, everybody gets to go grab the wreaths and start putting them out. And I don't care how old you are, how young you are, it's fun. And you feel so good. You really feel like you're playing a real role. You're honoring that person that has been laid to rest there, and you leave on such a high. So I encourage everyone to look up the Wreaths for America website, find a cemetery near you or one that you want to go visit. I will be at Cromwell, and I'm looking forward to it. And thank you both for all of the work that goes into putting on events like this. It takes people like you to keep these things going. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councilmember Herrera, for reading that and sharing your perspective. And I'm glad you've had the opportunity, Councilmember Denson, to join in the festivities. It seems weird to say that, but it sounds like we bring together community and we celebrate those that are no longer with us. Walking in historic cemeteries really brings generations together. You have family members who will talk to younger people about memories of times that are very different than we have today. And I love that in this activity, I've heard from multiple groups at the two here today, but also on Anderson Island and the one on base, where it's kids. Kids are showing up, youth are showing up, whether it's scout troops or just children, and they're actually seeing history and really being able to draw the attention of those that are no longer with us. Whenever I see a wreath, I think three things. I think welcome, because we put them on our doors. So it's part of, I think of peace, and it's the green and the colors, and I just think of how peaceful they can be. And then along with the shape of it, of bringing things together, you have the smell, and it's just joy. And I think that when we're putting that message of welcome and love and joy, and just, it's so wonderful, and we're putting it on a headstone of somebody who may literally have no one here that remembers them, we're pausing and remembering them by putting that wreath there. So I think it's really acknowledging those that are no longer with us in a very respectful way that brings history alive for people, which I think is a wonderful thing. So it's a wonderful activity. I think it really is very meaningful, and I really appreciate that Pierce County is involved in this. So thank you to my colleagues and the community that actually do this work. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks, Councilmember Hitchin. Vice Chair Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. Be brief. I'm so excited to have this program. I've talked about it before. During my teenage years, I was a caretaker of a small cemetery. It's back in the Midwest where I grew up. We had graves from the 1880s forward. Many veterans in there. Memorial Day was always a big day, but we didn't have this. And to have what we have now, the celebration at a time when sometimes, much of the plants have dropped their leaves, and to come back with this brightness in a cemetery to take off some of the fall lack of color is such a great thing. So just so excited to see this celebration happening in our cemeteries, and it just helps bring back the memory and importance of many of these small, old cemeteries that could easily be forgotten and overlooked. So thank you all for your work on it. Look forward to joining in the festivities.
Thank you. Councilmember Cruver.
Thank you, Chair. Not a lot more to say, but I just am amazed that it's been 10 years already. And I always look forward to going down to the cemetery to go through, and it's a time when folks can get together and we don't have any conflict. We're all there for the same reasons. And walking and putting the wreaths on is that opportunity to look at each headstone and you wonder, what is the story that lies behind that headstone? There's hundreds there, and you just like, could we just talk to you one more time? So it's just a great time to be together, to remember the good things that have come from their sacrifices. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Well, in closing, again, my colleagues have shared, I think, just such thoughtful and meaningful remarks and reflections, and we really want to thank the volunteers who do this remembrance at local cemeteries and give us an opportunity to do that very respectfully and meaningfully this time of year each year. It's a lot of volunteer work and energy to not only organize but to maintain these proper resting places for veterans. So thank you for giving us these opportunities to do that, to reflect. And many of us do, all of us do, have the opportunity to say thank you to veterans and say thank you to their service when they're alive. And all of us take part in as many of those opportunities as possible. But to those who we have lost, to go and be respectful in that way is a next level of opportunity. So thank you for what you do. With that, we would love for you to come up here so we can take a photo, so we can help share this out to the community a little bit more. somewhere, oh, but there's more. And there are more ordinances that the executive signed into law that I missed earlier. So part 2 of messages from the executive. He transmitted the following ordinances which were signed and approved on December 4th, 2023. It included ordinance number 2023-45, an ordinance authorizing wage adjustments for non-represented county employees. The executive signed ordinance number 2023-50. This was an ordinance amending parks and recreation fees. The executive signed ordinance number 2023-51S, an ordinance amending the parks impact fee schedule. The executive signed ordinance number 2023-65S2. This was an ordinance implementing the 2024-2025 budget by requesting certain county departments, boards, and commissions to take certain actions. And finally, for real this time, the executive signed ordinance number 2023-70S, which was an ordinance related to wage adjustments for non-represented employees of the Office of the Pierce County Council. I'll let members know that actually I hand-delivered our biennial budget to the executive this morning. In our regular meeting this morning, I hand-delivered the budget to him, so he has that for his consideration, and I'm certain he will be signing it. He told me as much. He will be signing it. But it just got packaged all up with all of our amendments and delivered to him this morning. So we are now at resolutions, right, Ms. Long? I have several different versions of this agenda. We were at section 9, resolutions. We have proposal number R 2023-164 before us. Councilmember Krueger for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move R 2023-164.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded to advance R 2023-164. Madam Clerk, please read the title into the record.
Councilmember R 2023-164, a resolution of the Pierce County Council accepting and approving the 2024 State Highway Management District Annual Work Plan.
Thank you. Mr. Swanson to brief.
Thank you, Chair Mello and members of the council. Before you for public hearing and final consideration today is resolution R 2023-164. Again, this would accept and approve the 2024 Spanaway Lake Management District Work Plan, which is set forth in Exhibit A attached to the resolution. In September of 2021, the council formed the Spanaway Lake Management District by ordinance. It also enacted an annual assessment of $4 per foot of lake frontage. That assessment has a maximum cap of $1,500 per parcel. The Planning and Public Works Department is responsible for exercising all powers necessary and appropriate to operate and manage the district. They do receive input from the Spanaway Lake Management District's Citizens Advisory Board. Annually, as set forth in the ordinance, annually, Planning and Public Works is required to come before the council to get approval for their annual work plan, and also approving the annual assessment is part of that that comes forward. To the summary of the proposal, there was a presentation given at EIDC, Economic and Infrastructure Development Committee, on the 28th. At the request of the chair and for the public's purpose, it's a very short presentation, 7 slides. We are going to go through that again at this meeting just to put it on the public record for the council. But very briefly, the work plan has 4 sections, and also there is no request to adjust the annual assessment fee, so that won't be part of the. I think they do actually mention in the presentation that they're not adjusting the impact fee, but you're not being asked to adjust that fee with this resolution today. Again, the Surface Water Management staff does recommend approval, as did the Citizens Advisory Board recommends approval of this work plan. There was a public meeting, discussion and comments from the public at the August 8th meeting of the Citizens Advisory Board for the Spanaway Lake Management District. Again, a public hearing was held in Economic and Infrastructure Development Committee on November 28th, where it did receive a due pass recommendation. There is an equity analysis included in your packet. This resolution does list no or de minimis fiscal impact. The work of the district is supported largely by the assessment, but I would note that as part of the biennial budget, council did approve $250,000 from the Surface Water Management Fund to be made available for implementation of approved work plans within the Spanaway Lake Management District. So those funds made available by council will help those assessment fees go a lot farther into the work plan over the 2 years of the biennium. With that, we do have Austin Jennings, Angela Angove, and Tom Kantz from the Surface Water Management Division available on the call. And again, we do have that presentation is available in your packet, and it will also be projected up on the screen. But they will again go through the summary of the proposal.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings, if we or Mr. Kantz, if we could ask you to go through the presentation briefly. We know the council committee has vetted this very thoroughly, but members of the public often can't participate during committee meeting time in the middle of the workday. So if I know this has gotten some public attention, and if you could please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Mello, members of the council. My name is Austin Jennings. I'm a senior planner within Planning and Public Works. I'm here today to talk briefly about the department's proposed 2024 annual work plan for the Spanaway Lake Management District. Next slide, please. And as Mr. Swanson alluded to, the Spanaway Lake Management District was created by Pierce County Council in the second half of 2021. Ordinance 2021-84, which established the district, delegates operation and management to the Planning and Public Works Department. The ordinance directs the department to submit for council approval a plan that details the proposed lake maintenance and improvement activities for the following year. In developing the work plan, council has also directed the department to consider the annual written assessment of the Spanaway Lake Management District Citizen Advisory Board. This advisory board, which was created in late February of 2022, serves to provide recommendations to the department and to council regarding lake improvement and maintenance activities. This includes providing an annual written report, which is due to council by June 15th of each year. The board is also responsible for reviewing and providing comment on the department's proposed work plan, as well as assisting the department in educating district landowners and helping to identify funding opportunities. The advisory board's written assessment and recommendations report was completed in April of this year and presented to the Economic Infrastructure Development Committee on May 23rd. The department has reviewed the report and incorporated priority recommendations into its proposed work plan. A draft version of this work plan was then presented to the advisory board for their review at a special meeting held on August 8th. The board was supportive of the work plan after only one minor revision. Next slide, please. And the work plan itself is broken up into 4 general categories of work. The first section covers the tasks necessary to administer and to support the Lake Management District Advisory Board. The second would continue our efforts to reduce or eliminate Class C noxious weeds from the lake. The third addresses nutrient and cyanobacteria control strategies as identified by our Lake Cyanobacteria Management Plan. The fourth category incorporates other specific work items which were requested by the advisory board in their annual assessment report. And the final section of the work plan addresses the district's assessment rates. For 2024, Planning and Public Works assumed no changes to the annual district assessment rate established by 2021-116S. Next slide, please. So Ordinance 2021-131, which is now codified as Pierce County Code Chapter 2.41, sets forth the requirements for the Citizen Advisory Board in terms of their meeting frequency, their responsibilities, deliverables, and due dates. The code directs the department to provide staff support as necessary and appropriate to facilitate the board's activities. The work plan represents our understanding of the elements necessary for the department to meet those requirements in 2024. And aside from updating the schedule dates, these tasks are largely unchanged from the 2023 work plan approved by council last year. The department proposes continued support for meetings, administration, and development of the advisory board's annual report to council. Next slide, please. And as in the 2023 work plan, the department is proposing continued work to control noxious weed species present in the lake. The need for aquatic plant control has been noted in several past lake studies and was identified by the advisory board as one of its 2 primary concerns in this year's annual recommendation report. In 2022, the department worked to secure the permits necessary and procure a contract with a licensed applicator to carry out noxious weed control. In June of this year, we underwent our first successful round of treatment for invasive lily pads, and the work tasks before you reflect our understanding of the elements required to implement a successful and compliant vegetation treatment program, again in 2024. Next slide, please. Harmful algal blooms in Spanaway Lake often result in advisories that restrict lake use for the residents and visitors. The duration of these impacts can vary from a few weeks up to 6 months each year, depending on the severity of the bloom. The advisory board's annual report recommends taking actions to reduce the occurrence of these blooms as the second of its 2 highest priorities. The 2023 work plan included a study to shore up data gaps that were related to the nutrient and water budgets for the lake, and then to develop a cyanobacteria management plan that would identify and recommend strategies to reduce the occurrence of these blooms. Our consultant team reviewed the lake water quality data from several past lake studies and evaluated a suite of control methods available to address algal blooms. The initial list included some 12 potential strategies, some of which were identified by the public at a plan kickoff meeting that we had held in June. The plan also identifies near-term strategies to provide relief from blooms while a capital facility can be designed and installed to provide oxygen to the lake bottom. Once installed, this capital system is expected to reduce nutrient loads and provide cyanobacteria control long-term. For the near term, the plan recommends using lanthanum modified bentonite clay. This method was selected over other phosphorus sequestration technologies because of its expected effectiveness and its reduced ecological risk. Other methods were evaluated, including aluminum sulfate or alum, iron particulates, and special proprietary blends. Alum was not recommended due to the higher cost and the potential unhealthy shifts in lake pH. Iron was not recommended due to its limited effectiveness in low oxygen conditions, which we know are present throughout the lake. Proprietary blends were not recommended because of the unknown chemical makeup of a lot of those proprietary elements and the need for experimental use approval through the Department of Ecology. That just makes the process much more complicated. The work plan elements in this section represent what we understand are the necessary steps for implementing both the short and long-term control strategies. Both will require shoreline substantial development permits. We anticipate that the permitting process is going to take several months, and preliminary estimates also put the cost of the capital solution well beyond the amount authorized for collection by the district assessment, something on the order of about 1.2 to 1.3 million total. And so implementation of these work plan elements will be dependent on the permitting decisions made outside the Lake Management District, as well as on the availability of supplemental funding. And so the timelines for these actions were difficult to specify. We will know more once we've initiated the permitting and design process, which we hope to have underway soon. Next slide, please. Fourth section of the plan is new this year and is based on the recommendations from the Advisory Board's first ever recommendations report. This was presented to the Economic Infrastructure Development Committee in May. The work plan already addresses the board's primary concerns, which were control of noxious weeds and solutions to prevent harmful algal blooms. But in addition to these, the board's report identifies a number of secondary actions that they wish to see implemented. After considering the report, the department has incorporated 4 of these into the work plan for 2024. The first is to begin addressing upstream phosphorus sources. While treating nutrients in the lake is important, the board also wishes to see nutrient control at the source, preventing it from entering the lake to begin with. This is consistent with recommendations in the upcoming cyanobacteria management plan, as well as recommendations that came out of a separately prepared stormwater management plan for the Spanaway Basin. And since on-site septic systems, say that 5 times fast, are the dominant contributor of phosphorus into groundwater through Spanaway Lake, the department proposes coordinating with Tacoma Pierce County Health Department to develop an enhanced operation and maintenance program for those systems. This would be very similar to those already being implemented in our shellfish growing areas and also around lake taps. The second element the board wishes to see was additional water quality monitoring, particularly upstream of the lake. This too is consistent with recommendations in our upcoming cyanobacteria management plan and would directly aid in adaptively managing lake water quality. The department proposes evaluating the current monitoring capacity and working to implement additional monitoring through the department's existing monitoring unit or through a qualified contractor. Third, the board wishes the district to explore the installation of an enhanced boat washing station at the public launch. These stations can aid in preventing the transfer of noxious weeds and other aquatic invasive species. The department proposes working with our state agency partners to learn more about the available technologies, their effectiveness, and the best practices for those boat stations so we can determine a suitable strategy for Spanaway Lake. And the fourth board recommendation is to begin addressing nuisance vegetation in the lake. Unlike noxious weeds, nuisance vegetation control involves the removal of native plants, which may interfere with lake uses. Nuisance vegetation is not currently covered under the Lake Management District's shoreline development permit exemption for noxious weed control, so it would require additional survey, permitting, and contract procurement. The permitting aspect is not guaranteed, but provided we can get it approved, this work aligns very closely to the existing noxious weed control effort. Next slide, please. And the last element of the plan is the proposed annual charges for the district. For 2024, the department work plan assumes no change to the rates approved in 2022 and 2023. The work plan would carry those forward. The previous charge of $4 per foot of frontage up to a maximum of $1,500 on privately owned parcels. This is consistent with the rates described in Ordinance 2021-84 as well as Ordinance 2021-116S. It also aligns with the rate recommendations which were made by the Citizen Advisory Board in their annual report to Council. And with that, I am available to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Austin, for walking through that, especially for the public's benefit. They can see how seriously we're taking this, as well as the Citizens Advisory Committee, who's provided great community leadership on this. Questions or comments from committee members before we open this up for public hearing? Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Jennings, the council received several emails from community members asking for a little bit more detail on the kind of working with our septic systems and that kind of work. And I know that it was mentioned as one of the areas that you're going to be working on, but can you kind of pull out a little bit more about what you're thinking around that? Because I know we saw great success when we really targeted septic systems around lake taps. Like, we have the data to support that.
Sure, yeah, and thank you, council member. I will start by prefacing that this is, the health department's work predominantly, but we have been very successful in initiating partnerships with them in the past, most notably the TAPSWISE program, which was, I think, one of the first in the county to kind of begin that increased operation and maintenance focus for that watershed, just based on water quality concerns that were there. And so there are on the books already requirements for certain inspection frequencies on septic systems. The health department in the past has not had the capacity to really enforce those requirements. And so essentially what they've done is embark on kind of an education outreach campaign to help folks begin to comply with those inspection frequencies, but also provide a good amount of technical assistance and also financial assistance in order to facilitate those inspections, things like, pumping and inspection vouchers and financial assistance for repairs and things of that nature. And I think based on the success of the TAPSWISE program, we've also seen this implemented in a lot of our shellfish growing areas, which was kind of the second phase of their rollout. The reason being that bacteria pollution in those watersheds tends to be the predominant cause of shellfish growing area closures. And so there was kind of a water quality driver for that. And now we're ramping up efforts to do similar work in the Clover Creek watershed, which is under a TMDL for bacteria. And so it would be based on similar models. We would essentially be looking to build out the department's capacity, the health department's capacity to take on additional watersheds.
Okay, and I know in our most recent budget we added an amendment to increase the staffing specifically for doing that kind of work at the health department. Now, I know they have to go find somebody to actually do the work, but I know that we made it a priority because we've heard both in the Key Pen in some of our areas that there really is a need to try and get ahead of some of that, and there was a backlog created by the COVID outbreak or COVID-19 pandemic. So I think that work will continue in partnership, but happy to have conversations both with the Friends of Spanaway Lake and the health department. As the vice chair of the Board of Health, we've continued to look at how we can really work on water quality when we talk about how our septic systems sometimes they fail, the people aren't even aware they're failing until they've already done some damage. And so we want to try and be more upfront with education and reaching out and doing those inspections so that we don't have these contaminations and these failures that after the fact could be so much more expensive for property owners. So just appreciate that that's called out, and we'll continue to work on that partnership and education in the community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for those thoughts. Any other questions before we open this up for a public hearing? Well, Mr. Jennings, could you repeat one more time that, we also got a lot of some feedback from the community about how important water quality monitoring is. I know, as a profession, as a biologist and professional, that data is incredibly important to make best decisions. But can you share how we will be collecting, briefly, how we will be monitoring, collecting information, and making it publicly accessible and publicly consumable so that they can see the health of the lake? Can you repeat that?
Yes, absolutely. So the cyanobacteria management plan, which we had developed by our consultant Herrera, does address kind of some of the menu of options available for us to improve the monitoring capacity there. And so what we have are a list of possible parameters and sampling locations from them. And we're looking to kind of build up primarily upstream our understanding of the water coming into the lake, but also getting depth profiles and things from inside the lake that help us to make those management decisions. All of our data that's collected through our monitoring unit is stored in a database called Whiskey, which has a public-facing interface. And so if folks hop onto our website, they can actually find our water quality data portal. It's a nice kind of map layout that shows you all of the sampling locations. You can click into those and drill down into the specific parameters that are measured. And so a lot of that data is publicly available. But we also, take that data and synthesize kind of insights from it and present those things regularly at our watershed councils and other partnership events that we have going. So it's unclear at this time kind of how much of that monitoring we'll be able to take on just given budget and staff availability over in the monitoring unit, but there are several elements which align with current work that we're already doing that shouldn't represent that big of an additional lift. And so with council's authorization of this work plan, we would embark on those conversations with our monitoring unit, find out what their capacity is, and then if there's not the capacity there, potentially identify external consultant support that would help us to get those parameters in the interim.
Thank you for answering that question.
Yep.
I don't see any other hands at this time, so we're going to open this up for a public hearing on the Spanaway Lake Management District Annual Work Plan. We will start here in chambers. We ask everyone to state their name for the record. You have 3 minutes to make your remarks. Your remarks must be germane to the resolution at hand, otherwise you will forfeit your opportunity to speak for the rest of the meeting. We'll start here in chambers. Please come to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Mel Olson. I'm a resident of Spanaway Lake, member of the Lake Management District Citizens Advisory Board, have 2 engineering degrees in water management, and have lived on the lake for 18 years and have done a considerable amount of remediation work for a large company. So I have some experience in what we're talking about here. First, I want to compliment Mr. Jennings on his hard work. He's been an excellent person for us to work with on the Lake Management Board. I don't necessarily agree with everything he's done, but he has really worked hard on it. The problem I'm having with the plan as it has been put together is it doesn't fit the facts on the ground. And what I mean by that is I've also am the lead for the Spanaway Lake Management or Spanaway Lake Algae Watch Committee, and I know where the algae actually shows up. And it's showing up not where they're going to be doing the treatment. The treatment aspect is going to be in the north end of the lake, which is the deepest part. Most of the algae problems we find are in the south end of the lake, which is actually relatively shallow. Now, for the upcoming year, I guess since we need to be seen to be doing something as a lake management district, having the application of the lithium bentonite clay mixture is probably not going to do any real harm. Problem is it's not going to do any good either. We really need to start focusing our activities on source control, which Mr. Jennings mentioned Tacoma Pierce County Health Department is working on. However, there is a Brown and Caldwell study already out that says there's 200 years worth of excess phosphorus heading at the lake. So what we really need to start doing is looking at interception. How do we capture all of that phosphorus and nutrient coming into the lake before it can become part of the lake ecosystem? There are a number of ways of doing this. They are all well known to the remediation community. They are not cheap, but then again, the oxygenation system Mr. Jennings referred to is at 1.4 million per pop, and they need at least 2, and they only address the northern end of the lake. They don't address the southern end. So we're not looking at a cheap solution by just oxygenating the lake. It will help, but it's not going to solve the problem. So I'd like the council to have the surface water management persons come back and explain in some detail at this, I think it was April meeting, exactly what they're going to do and how they're going to balance Tacoma Pierce County Health Department's efforts, interception, and applications of these lanthanum clays. If we don't actually get to the problem, we're going to be spending over $100,000 a year continually adding this clay because we don't have a better solution in hand.
Thank you.
That's my thoughts.
Thank you for being with us. Thanks for coming all the way down here.
Yeah.
Any other members of the public wish to provide comment? Not seeing any. We're going to turn to the Zoom room, and I'll remind members of the public, your comments must be germane to the topic at hand. Otherwise, you will risk your opportunity to forfeit to speak for the rest of this item. Mr. Weinsberry.
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number R2023-164, press the raise hand icon of Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And at this time, we have 2 hands, Chair. First name, Ed. Please state your name for the record.
Oh, hello, my name is Ed Larson. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm on the board of Friends of Spanaway Lake, and I'm also a member of the Citizens Advisory Board for Spanaway Lake. And just so everybody knows, the Friends of Spanaway Lake Board voted unanimously to support the current cyanobacteria management plan. Sorry, not speaking well. The Citizen Advisory Board voted 6-1 in support of the plan. I think you know who voted against it. The plan also has widespread community support. This lake has been studied to death, and every expert and consultant has come to the same conclusion. This includes Aquatechnics, Brown and Caldwell, and Herrera. Sorry, not you, Paul, different Herrera. All of these firms do lake studies and treatments for a living. There are 2 or 3 loud voices that are opposing this plan because they think all the experts are wrong and they are right. Spanaway Lake has been suffering these algae blooms for too long. It's time to quit studying and start doing. We have a good plan. It's time to move forward. Please keep the process moving and approve the plan. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Next, we have Scott. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Scott Munson. I'm currently the vice chair for the Citizens Advisory Board for the Lake Management District. I was also a charter board member for Friends of Spanaway Lake and have been studying this lake since 2016. Have spoke to this group on multiple occasions. I very much appreciate your support as we get close to taking action at the lake. I strongly recommend that you pass this plan. I think Austin Jennings and Tom Katz and that whole team have put together an excellent plan that's addressing a very dynamic environment. I think the key here is adaptive management. They're gonna go with what they think is gonna work best first, but they also recognize that the lake is very dynamic and we might have to incorporate some adaptive management practices in the future. But before we do that, we need to get after this plan because it's a very, very good plan. So again, I'm very grateful for the support of the County Council. for Austin Jennings. I think Austin is doing a terrific job. Again, and I've mentioned this in the past, it's a very opinionated group. There is some misleading information out there, so really do encourage people to go to the Pierce County Lake Management District website. Austin and his team have done a great job of putting together a website that can allow people to get up to speed on the many different aspects of this plan. So, to coattail what Ed said, all but 2 people that have read this plan support it. There is widespread support for this plan, and I hope that we can count on the council to support as well. So thank you again for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And at this time, we have no other hands, Chair.
Seeing no further hands, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Are there final remarks by council members? Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Chair. I want to say how much I appreciate all the work everyone has done, and I have never had so many compliments on a county team as I have had with Tom and Angela and Austin. They have been just rock stars in this process. And when I think back, it all started with a tree in the lake and docks that were going under the water, and these relationships have built over the years. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to support the work that they have done. It may not be perfect in the eyes of everyone, but I see a gathering of agreement that can happen here because we all care about this lake, and that folks who live on the lake, care about it probably more than anybody. So I appreciate the support, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councilmember Krueger, and thank you for your work on this and for working to add additional county dollars to leverage the dollars of the local property owners. We appreciate that. Are there other remarks? Thank you to the county staff team who's leading the work on the professional level and managing the consultant team, and also supporting the community members who care so deeply about the health of this lake and this place. So pleased to have this body of work. Mr. Jennings, can you just speak briefly? We had some public comment about, again, the need to intercept phosphorus and nitrogen coming into the lake, and also planning for the April meeting. Can you just speak briefly to some of the thoughts that we heard during the public hearing and what's in store for the April meeting for public awareness?
Sure, absolutely, Chair. Happy to do so. I think the first thing I'd say is, we have had consultants kind of come in and take a look at some spreadsheet models to help to understand kind of how much phosphorus is in the system and how long that system or that phosphorus will take to move through the system. I think it's tricky in that we could kind of turn off the faucet now. We could, if we pulled all the septic systems out of the ground today, potentially see the impacts of those pushing through the system for the next several decades, if not potentially centuries. And so while we are, cognizant that is an important strategy in addressing the sources, it doesn't kind of get us the immediate relief that folks are hoping for in the lake. When we secured consultant support for developing the cyanobacteria management plan, we were working with Rob Sazette and the team at Herrera. Rob has just a tremendous amount of experience working in kind of the limnological field all across really the Pacific Northwest. And so we have a lot of faith in the solutions that he's brought forward as his recommendations. Pump and treat was not something that was evaluated as a part of that, on the front end, because it's known to be cost prohibitive. It just wouldn't necessarily be something on that scale that we could really address within the kind of scope of the district assessment as it's been structured. I think, part of the other challenge too is that groundwater operates pretty uniquely in this watershed, and that it moves very, very, very quickly. The volumes of water that move through this are simply astounding when you look at some of the numbers. And so that does add additional layers of difficulty to groundwater treatment as well. And so, the practices that have been recommended are standard lake management tools. These are things that are being implemented in lakes like Kitsap and others in our region to great effect. And so we know that the strategies that Rob has given us have a track record of performing well, of accomplishing what we need to do, and it's consistent with what we understand to be true about the lake. And so I don't know if that addresses all of the comments that we've gotten there, but I have a good deal of confidence in the the recommendations that we've been supplied from Rob Suzette and his team. I think it's notable that these align pretty well with the recommendations that were made back in 2014 when Brown and Caldwell 2016 when Brown and Caldwell put together their lake management plan. This is essentially an updated technology of the same kind of recommended species cone technology that they had proposed back then. It has evolved and gotten better in the intervening 8 years, but it's essentially the same strategies that were identified by another contracting firm.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Appreciate those thoughts and responses. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on Resolution 2023-164?
Councilmember Rivera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger. Aye. Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The result of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. That's all of our business for today. We are at Section 10, Community Forum. Community Forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on any topic that is of significance to or affecting Pierce County government and that did not appear on today's agenda. There is a 3-minute time limit. We ask you to state your name if you would like it on the record and to address all comments to the chair. We'll start with those in chambers who wish to participate in Community Forum. Does any member of the public wish to participate in Community Forum that's here in council chambers? Please come to the podium. You're very welcome to participate. Again, your name for the record. You have 3 minutes to make your remark. Welcome.
Melvin Olison. What I want to speak on is actually it's related to Spanaway Lake, but it's the tiny village issue. We are very concerned. I have looked over some of the plans for the tiny village, particularly the storm water systems, which happens to be my area of expertise. And I'm very concerned that it is just going to destroy the effectiveness of the Coffee Creek and the general groundwater discharge into the Spanaway Lake for providing iron, which is an essential material for controlling cyanobacteria by sequestering phosphorus. So one of the things that was promised to us, I was just recently talking to people who are very involved in this, was that we would receive at least a year's worth of sampling data to create a baseline as to how much of the iron and other nutrients were coming out of the area that's involved. And to the best of our knowledge, we haven't received any. There's been no effort to collect that data as was promised. So I should bring that to the council's attention.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers? Not seeing any. Mr. Weinsberg, anybody in our Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment, press the raise hand icon in Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. I see no hands this time, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no hands, we'll close the community forum portion of our meeting. Bring it back to the council. We do have Ms. McDaniel, who is listening here from the county executive's office. I'm certain she heard your questions and requests for information, and I'm certain she'll do what she can to get information in response, as that information is held with the executive branch. So I'm certain she heard it. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for expressing your requests. We are at Section 11, Other Business and Announcements. Are there any other business or announcements from council members? Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. All of us received communications from our Director of Planning and Public Works around flood mapping and just being aware that there's a lot of standing water in unincorporated Pierce County and probably in our cities as well, and just be safe. If you are in unincorporated Pierce County, you can report standing water if it's causing problems or down trees through our See-Click Fix app or online. If you're in one of our city propers, all of them have ways to engage and report that information. We can only send our really dedicated staff if we know where to send them. So anytime a community member notices something that is dangerous to yourself or to your neighbors, please let us know so that we can do our best to respond. And doesn't happen very often in our community, but large standing water, like huge puddles, are really not good to drive through, as much fun as it might seem. So please be aware that doesn't happen very often in our area, though it is happening more often. So please just be aware that you never know what's underneath, and you don't want to do damage to your car. So please be safe as you're out there in our community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Hitchin. Other business by other members? I just wanted to remind members of the public, my colleagues already know because it's on their calendars, but remind members of the public that our final in-district meeting of the year, we'll close out the in-district series in District 4 in South Tacoma this Thursday, December 7th at 6:30 p.m. at Edison Square. It's on the 5400 block of South Tacoma Way. And we're looking forward to meeting some of the small businesses that make up the wonderfully quaint South Tacoma Way Business District. We'll hear from the mayor of Tacoma about some partnerships with the county. We'll hear from the Mayor's Youth Commission. And we'll also hear about the Maureen Howard Affordable Housing Act investment strategy as currently proposed by our county Human Services Department. So those are some of the topics that we'll be focused on in community this Thursday evening. Meeting's open to the public, and there's time at the end, the most important time at the end, to have open-ended time with the community and hear directly from community members. Councilmember Coover.
Thank you, Terry. I just wanted to remind, this Saturday, 5-ish, is the Eatonville Christmas Parade. Santa will, or Mrs. Claus will be there, I believe.
Oh. Santa's busy.
One of them.
Well, maybe there'll be a surprise. Any other business or announcements? Ms. Long, any other business for council this evening?
Staff, thank you.
Councilmember Coover?
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, seeing no further business before the Pierce County Council, we are adjourned.
But typically